Hi guys, I miss you guys so much. I miss being in the classroom with you, and I'm in the comfort of my own home, and I'm going to be doing the lectures from my computer and from my home. So let's get started. We ended ancient Greece. We're done with that. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Battle of 300, pretty cool. So now we are going to finish up with our religion study. So we've learned 3 religions so far out of the 5 major religions in the world. We are going to learn Islam this week and Christianity next week. Okay, so pull up your document that looks like this from assignment 1, the 5 major world religions, and let's get started. All right, there's going to be 3 lectures this week, pretty short, I hope. So let's get going. All right, so the first one is Judaism. Okay, I'm back, and my camera is a little bit blurry. Sorry about that. Okay, you'll see that I have the Judaism one filled out. So go ahead and fill it out while I talk about it. So remember, the guy was Abraham. The founder of Judaism was Abraham. Abraham was, he had a wife named Sarah, and they couldn't have kids. So do you remember how Sarah said it was okay for Abraham to have a kid with his maid, Hagar? And he did, and they named him Ishmael. Well, remember that for Islam, because out of Ishmael came the Arabs, okay? And then Abraham and his wife Sarah ended up having a kid in their old age, gross, and they named him Isaac. And out of Isaac came Judaism, okay? So from one man, Abraham, he had Ishmael, which came Islam, and Isaac, which came Judaism, which eventually gets into Christianity. Pretty cool. All right, so Abraham was a founder. The core beliefs are that God is the one true God. Okay, the second one is there's a covenant relationship that they have with God. A covenant means a relationship. They're close. They're committed. So their covenant relationship is that they have to keep the 10 commandments and God will bless them, okay? And the third core belief is to live a holy life, and they do that by keeping the 10 commandments, by being blessed by God, by trying to live the best that they can. And their scripture was the Torah. Remember, it was the scribes, those Jewish guys with like the curls in their hair, and they wore the hats, and they would write everything down, and that is the beginning of the Christian Bible, is the Torah. Okay. So the next one we move into is Hinduism. Okay, so Hinduism, if you remember, it really didn't start with one person. It was the Indo-Aryan people, and they came down into India. And Hinduism core beliefs are these. Number 1, Dharma. Remember we talked about Dharma. It's the right conduct. When you played that game in the classroom, if you did your job well, then that was Dharma. You got Dharma points. They really don't get points, but we did. All right, number 2 was karma. Remember, your karma was if you have good karma, when you get reincarnated in your later life, because that's what they believe in, when you get reincarnated, you will get reincarnated up higher in the caste system. Remember the caste system, there were levels. And depending on your good or bad actions, that decided where you would go. If you had a great life, good actions, you would go up the caste. If you had a poor life, you made bad decisions, you would go down the caste. Number 3 core belief is they believed in the god Brahman. Okay, and their scripture was the Vedas. So I hope all of this is ringing a bell. This is just a review. The next one is Buddhism. Okay, so Buddhism started with a guy named Siddhartha Gautama, and he eventually became Buddha. And remember Siddhartha, he went and he sat under a tree, and he was wondering about the great truths of life. He wanted to be enlightened. And so he finally came up with the 4 Noble Truths. And they are basically that everything has suffering. Suffering, it will always be there. Everything always changes. And you can't get away from suffering. You can only deal with it. And so the core beliefs of Buddhism, number 1, are the Four Noble Truths. Remember, he came up with the Four Noble Truths. Suffering exists. You have to deal with it. Number 2 core belief is the Eightfold Path. So how do you deal with suffering? How do you become enlightened? You follow the Eightfold Path. Okay? And we're not going to get into the whole thing, but some of them are don't lie, don't cheat, don't steal, things like that. Really similar to the 10 Commandments in Judaism. Lastly, number 3 in Buddhism is nirvana. That's what they were trying to reach, was nirvana, a state of enlightenment. If we go back to Hinduism, they were trying to reach moksha, similar in concept, kind of an enlightened state. In Buddhism, they're trying to reach nirvana. Okay, it's not really a religion. It's more of a philosophy. They don't have a god, okay? But in Buddhism, I didn't put anything for scriptures because they don't really have scriptures. They, what they strive to live by is don't crave anything, don't want anything, don't desire anything, okay? All right, so let's move on to Islam. A brief review or a brief couple of tidbits of what you're going to be learning this week. Okay, last one, Islam. So the founder is Muhammad. The first core belief is that Allah is the true God. Remember Islam. Briefly, I told you in Judaism it came from Abraham, who had Ishmael, and they were the Arabs, and they lived in Saudi Arabia, which is considered Saudi Arabia now. Back then it wasn't. And it's in this area that Islam started. They considered Allah as the true God, not the God of the Bible. Number 2, they have 5 pillars, which you will be learning a little bit later this week. And number 3, Muhammad is God's messenger. And so he's God's big messenger. He's the prophet. He wrote the Quran. Okay? That's their scripture. Their scripture is the Quran. That's the visions and the words, inspired words that Muhammad received. So get this chart filled in, turn it in, and watch the next video. See you later.